Okay, so boys and girls in fourth grade, now that we learned a little bit about Leonardo da Vinci, we're going to talk about some of his inventions that have to do with aviation. Now, Leonardo was fascinated with the idea of flying, and he would study bats and birds, and he would try to understand how Mother Nature created these animals that would take them up into the air. Now, he created many different flying machines, and one of them that he created was called the Ornithopter. And you can see that the Ornithopter was like a plane, but the wings moved up and down. And he was inspired by animals like bats and birds. How it worked was the pilot would sit face down on a pine board. The wings were made out of silk, and it was about 33 feet long. And it worked by a rod and pulley system. Now, there were many technical limitations during Leonardo's lifetime, so many of his ideas were flawed and never actually invented. But his scientific mind was so far in advance in comparison to his peers that some of his ideas are actually still used today. There's a wonderful exhibition that travels around to different museums that shows Leonardo da Vinci's inventions in real life. Artists have recreated what Leonardo da Vinci dreamt up in his sketchbook. And there's models of the Ornithopter and also of his parachute, which was basically a pyramid made out of pine and linen that would drop a human down to the earth successfully. There's no evidence that these items were built during Leonardo's lifetime, but he kept a sketchbook that had many different ideas that he created using the rod and pulley system. So boys and girls, we're going to try to create our own version of Leonardo da Vinci's Ornithopter. So to get started, I have some thicker paper here, and to make it look more antique, like it came out of one of Leonardo's sketches, is I have some coffee here that I cooled off and I have in a cup. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give the paper a layer of coffee stain, and I want to paint the front and the back. Let me pan you down. Don't be perfect here, just get it on. And here's one where I let it dry a bit, and I hope you can see that. It's very light. So I'm going to go back in and add a second layer of coffee to this, just to stain it some more. And I'm also going to flip it over and paint the back, because this will be a three-dimensional project, and you will see both sides. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to build our version of Leonardo da Vinci's flying machine. Okay, so boys and girls, you can see I have my paper, and it's been stained and it's dry. Now, if you don't have coffee at home, you can use just watered down brown paint or even a tea bag. If you wet the tea bag, you can just drag it across the paper and you can stain it that way too. But I just love the effect that the coffee gives on the paper. It reminds me so much of the sketches I saw in the introduction video. So now it's time to make the wings. So I have two pieces of paper, which I'm going to use to create the wings on the Ornithopter. So I'm going to put them together, because that way I can make them both at the same time. And I'm going to grab my scissors here. And by the way, I'm in my little art studio today. So I'm just going to take my Sharpie, and you can use a pencil if you want. And I'm going to draw a curved line from one side to the other, just like that, because the wingspan was about 33 feet. It's quite long. And to make the bottom of the wings, I noticed that the wings were scalloped. So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to draw the scallop design on the bottom. And also, inside where the points are, they linked up to create the framework on the wing. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to create some lines that remind me of Leonardo's drawing. I'm going to put my papers together, and at the same time, I'm just going to cut them out. Save those scraps because you can use them for something else since you antiqued the paper. Oops. It's a little wet. Okay, so now if I take this and I flip this one around, I will have two wings. Now this is why I wanted you to paint the front and the back, because the wings are going to be seen three-dimensionally. So I'm going to take my Sharpie, and I'm going to move my scraps because I might need these for another part, and I'm just going to draw the black lines on it like I have on my first wing here. And let me move you down. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a paper towel tube for this next part. So if you have a paper towel tube, that's great. If you don't, you can just always stain some more paper and you can roll it up into a tube and do it that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the framework for the Ornithopter by cutting down the tube like that. I think I'm going to cut the other side as well. And I love how this is kind of curved because it'll cradle the person. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw what I remember the framework to be. So on the inside of the tube, Leonardo had on his Ornithopter a tail, which reminded me sort of like a leaf. And then there was a piece of pine wood that went like that. So actually it looks like a spoon, doesn't it? And then he had the part where the person would sit. So I'm going to cut that out so you can see what that looks like. So there, using that piece of cardboard, it's already stained. I don't have to do anything to it. But I think what I will do is using my Sharpie, I'm going to draw some lines on it to indicate maybe there was some framework in there. And because this is three-dimensional, I should also do the back. Put some lines going down like that. See that? And I will put some lines and some circles to look like maybe there's some rivets holding this together. Okay, so boys and girls, I have my wings and I have my wooden part. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another cardboard tube. This one came from toilet paper. And if you don't have a toilet paper tube, again, you can just take some of your scrap paper and you can just cut a nice long strip. And using a glue stick or some hot glue, you can just roll that to create hoops, just like that. So what I did was I took my cardboard tube and I'm going to cut it to make 2 rings like that, because this is the part that's going to connect the wings to the base. And I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the bottom, right where that mark is, and I'm going to slide this right on and hold it for a second. Look at that. Now, boys and girls, this is not going to be exactly like Leonardo's project, but it's ours. So we're using his as our inspiration. So there. Now I have the part where the pilot goes, and I think I'm just going to round off the top a little bit. Look at how cool. And now to that, I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to put my wings on the back tube. So I think what I might need to do is anchor them up using a piece of cardboard here to support it. Okay, so boys and girls, I have this little wooden stick here. Now, if you don't have a wooden stick at home, you can certainly go outside and find one from nature, or you might have a thicker piece of cardboard, or you might have another piece of your paper towel tube. I cut one just to show you. So what I'm going to do is hold that there on the bottom, and I'm going to take some glue. I might actually tape that, I think. But if I just fix my wings, let me pan you up. Do you see how cool that is? Look at that. So that piece of wood is on the bottom. Do you see it? And it's just holding the wings so they stay up in the air. And I think what I'm going to do is I have some brown rope, and I'm going to use the rope to anchor it so I can hang it. Alright, so boys and girls, I'm going to take some brown rope that I have. Let me pan you down. And if you don't have brown rope, you can use yarn, you can use some string, you can use a pipe cleaner, use whatever you have around the house, right? And I'm going to use this to hold it up, and I love how that makes it look like it's flying. So I'm just going to cut this here. And I think I'll tie a knot just up here to anchor it. And I'll put another knot here so I can hoop it onto something. And I can probably put a little bit of glue there just to hold that, but let me pan you up. And look at how cool our Leonardo da Vinci flying machine looks. Let me pan you down again, and I have just a little bit of brown paint. Again, if you don't have brown paint, you can use some coffee or some brown watercolor paint. And I think what I'm going to do is just add some brown dry brushing over the cardboard tube. Okay, so boys and girls, give the project a try. I hope you enjoy making it. I'd love to see what kind of flying machine you create. You might try to create Leonardo's helicopter or his parachute. So if you master this project or try another one, I'd love to see it. Please email me at pricet@pearlriver.org. You also can click on another grade level to see what they're doing as well. I hope you have a great week, and we'll link up next time for more art online. See you soon.